Alright, so it's that time of day where once again I overcharge you all by giving a penny for my thoughts. Now I must confess, I was sort of struggling for content upon which to make a video on my way home today. It's been a fairly slow news day. There hasn't really been a lot of interest happening on anywhere in the world, it would seem. When I was at work, I sure as hell didn't fancy doing anything productive when I was there. So I figured I'll give my thoughts today on the topic of public shaming and the associated dangers involved within it. Now I must admit, straight off the bat, I'm a fairly sort of wrathful and callous kind of a chap. Being a firm believer in reaping what you sow, and a hellfire and brimstone kind of guy. But I think there's the need for a conversation within society about the dangers of public shaming, particularly on social media and internet forums. Certainly over the last, I suppose, 3 to 4 years in particular, it's got extremely prevalent, but even back as far as 2012 were murmurings of particularly vicious and nasty public shamings on social media and numerous forums. You all know the main sort of forums I will be discussing, but I'm not going to publicly name them for fear of a YouTube censor. Anyways, I think how society should truly progress and overcome this issue, in particular with reference to criminal law, there needs to be a conversation about anonymity, about certain individuals who've been accused of crimes having their identity protected till they get a fair trial. Over the last few years, there's been numerous occasions where, particularly highly sort of classified males, have been accused of inappropriate actions off the back of the you-know-what movement. Unless you've lived under a rock since 2017, you'll know exactly what movement I'm talking about. But again, we're referring you back to the fear of a YouTube censor, so I can't actually publicly name it. But there seems to be a growing number of individuals on both sides, left and right, who seem to be perfectly content meting out justice by social media mob rule. Now this very quickly needs vetoed. As you can see, at the moment, society is becoming increasingly polarized and broken down into further and further identity groups and subdivisions. And if there's one lesson society should have learned in the 20th century, is that identity politics needs to be stamped out as quickly as it arises, because it always leads down a very dark and dangerous path. Society, I fear, in particular in the West, where society is generally considered to be more open, is heading towards a precipice. And there's a potential, I think, in the coming decades for the 21st century to be the most bloody century, and could potentially even put the 20th century to shame in terms of body count. You only have to look between the relationships between a lot of these groups, most notably male, female, black, white, LGBT, and the heterosexual community, to see how relationships are very, very quickly souring. Which of course then gives rise to infiltration by bad actors, both at an individual and potentially nationalistic level. So I think for society to truly move forward and progress, there's an awful need for conciliatory attitudes to be pushed, not only by politicians, but also at a regional and local level, even a micro level between different groups and individuals. As to how this gets achieved, I'm not quite sure. But one thing I think would certainly prove beneficial would just be the removal of protections in criminal law and potentially punitive measures for the discussion of ongoing criminal cases on social media and different internet forums. Now, I'm in no way, shape or form, a fan of cancel culture. But whenever you have numerous high-class individuals committing suicide over crimes of which they have been accused but not yet truly convicted, something has to be implemented somewhere to prevent the further fragmentation of society on the whole. Anyway, I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for listening.